I'm Emma Wilson, and at the age of 24, I never imagined that my day of college graduation would turn out to be the most romantic kind of retaliation. It should have been a simple thrill to stand next to my sister Lily in our matching gowns and caps, but years of cruel treatment had led to this. Moment their icy remarks are still reverberating in my mind. It still hurts to think of that night when my parents decided that only my sister was worth investing in, even if she earned it and you didn't. Please let me know where you're watching from in the comments section and hit the like button if you've ever had to struggle twice as hard for something that came naturally to someone else before I reveal what caused my parents' faces to go ghostly pale at our graduation. I was raised in an apparently typical suburban Michigan middle-class family. From the outside, our two-story home with the white picket fence appeared flawless, replete with family portraits that concealed the complex reality within with staged grins. My parents, Robert and Diana Wilson, had steady employment. My mother taught English in high school, and my father was an accountant. Although we weren't rich, we were content enough that I wasn't expected to face financial difficulties in the future. Despite being 2 years younger than me, my sister Lily always looked to be years ahead of us in our parents' eyes because of her flawless blonde hair, easy academic success, and innate charisma. The pattern was evident from a young age. Lily was the star child, and I was the underdog. I can vividly remember Christmas mornings when Lily would open the newest, priciest toys while I was given useful things like socks or craft kits from the thrift shop. Your sister's talents require greater support. When I asked about the discrepancy, Mom would clarify. I realized the injustice even at the age of 8, but I learned to bury my disappointment. Events at school brought to light the disparity in their support. Both parents would take the day off work to assist Lily in making intricate displays for her science fairs. I felt fortunate if my mother could visit for 15 minutes during her lunch break for my painting exhibits. Art is just a hobby, Emma. It won't help you in life, Dad would sarcastically say. My grandmother Alina appeared to be the only one who noticed me. She would spend hours sitting with me while I drew the trees and water during our summer vacations to her lake cottage. Emma, you have a unique perspective on the world. It was her way of saying, don't let anyone dim your light. My haven was those summers spent with Grandma Alina. I found books on prosperous business owners and executives who had surmounted challenges in her modest library. I started to have aspirations beyond simply getting through my early years. My parents couldn't ignore my aspirations to demonstrate my value through accomplishments. As a result of necessity, I became resilient by high school, excelled in arithmetic and economics, and shocked even my most encouraging teachers with my innate talent. I also joined every club pertaining to business. My economics teacher, Mr. Rivera, personally called my parents to congratulate me on my outstanding work after I won the regional business plan competition as a sophomore. After hanging up, Mom said, "That's nice. Lily has that important presentation tomorrow. Did you remember to assist her with her history project?" In order to conserve money during my junior year, I worked after school at a nearby coffee shop. Despite working 20 hours a week, I was able to maintain a 4 GPA because I realized I would eventually need my own resources. In the meantime, Lily joined the debate team and quickly rose to fame. My parents attended every competition and threw special dinners to celebrate each win. By our senior year, Lily and I were both submitting college applications. We both applied to the esteemed Westfield University, which is renowned for its top-notch business and political science programs, even though we were 2 years apart because Lily had skipped a grade, placing us in the same graduation class. We both received acceptance letters on the same day, beyond all chances, and I can still clearly recall the elation. When I opened the big packet, my hands shook, and I couldn't suppress my excitement as I announced it over dinner. Complete enrollment in the business program, my dad looked up from his phone for a moment. That's quite pleasant. Emma, a few minutes later, Lily yelled as she rushed through the front door with her own acceptance letter from Westfield's political science program. My parents' change came about instantly. Mom hurried to embrace Lily as Dad leaped out of his chair, and dinner was abruptly abandoned for an unplanned party that included sparkling cider for us and champagne for the grown-ups. "We always knew you were capable," Mom gushed to Lily as if she had forgotten that I had just minutes before declared the identical accomplishment. The conversation that would alter everything happened 2 weeks later. "We need to discuss college plans," Dad said, folding his hands on the table as we had a family dinner, a rare occasion when everyone was present and phones were temporarily put away. His eyes were fixed solely on Lily, though. "We've been saving for your education since you were born. The Westfield tuition is steep, but we can cover it entirely so you can focus on your studies without worrying about money." As I waited for my turn, Lily grinned proudly, presumably thinking they had both of us covered. Uncomfortably, the silence dragged on until I said, "What about my tuition?" I asked gently. My parents' uneasy look seemed to cause the room's temperature to decrease by a few degrees. "Emma," murmured my dad softly. We only have enough for one of you, and since Lily has consistently demonstrated greater academic promise, we think her education will be more profitable. In an apparent attempt to console me, my mother leaned across and patted my hand. You've always been more independent anyway. You can take out loans or maybe consider a community. First, college. The subsequent statements ingrained themselves firmly in my mind. I couldn't comprehend the extent of their betrayal as I glanced at them. She deserved it, but you didn't. Somehow, years of minor rejections had not equipped me for this last discount of my value. My thoughts and the tenuous bonds tying our family together vanished at that instant. After the heartbreaking dinner revelation that evening, I shut myself in my bedroom and let the tears I had been suppressing finally flow. I was devastated by the injustice. After 17 years of attempting to win my parents' favor, I was finally rejected. They didn't care about my 4 GPA, my victories in business competitions, or my entrance to a prominent university. I had never been enough, and it seemed I never would be. Puffy-eyed and worn out, I confronted my parents in the kitchen before school the following morning. How could you have saved college money for Lily but not for me? I tried to remain calm, but my voice broke as I asked. Mom stirred her coffee and sighed. Emma, it's not that simple. We had to make practical decisions with our limited resources. I retorted, but I have better grades than Lily. I have maintained flawless academic standing while working part-time for the past 2 years. Why doesn't that show up? Commitment. Dad snapped his newspaper shut. Academics have always been your sister's passion. You've been too preoccupied with other pursuits in your work, and Lily has a well-defined career path. At best, your company concepts are dangerous. You never inquired about my plans at all. I muttered. Look, Mom spoke out. We can assist you in completing loan applications. Many students choose to pay for their own education. Since they had already decided, the discussion came to an end there. They believed that I was less worthy of their investment because I was less promising. I drove to my grandmother's house 2 hours away that weekend in search of the only real support I knew. Grandma Eleanor listened to my entire narrative without interruption, her worn hands tightly clasping mine. My darling girl, Mother replied at last, blotting away my tears. Sometimes the most trying times in life serve as the best motivators for us. Your parents are terribly mistaken about you, yet you possess an unbreakable resolve that they are unable to acknowledge. Grandma was unable to provide financial assistance. She gave me something more precious, even though her fixed salary was barely enough to support her own expenses. Constant faith in my abilities, she yelled angrily, "Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway." That evening, I decided that I would go to Westfield with Lily, pay for my own education, and graduate in spite of all the challenges. Don't allow their restrictions become yours. I started looking into school loans, work-study opportunities, grants, and scholarships the following morning. I spent weeks filling out applications in my leisure time. I've rarely seen a student as determined as you, my guidance counselor, Mrs. Chen, said as we filed my 25th scholarship application. She stayed after school to assist me handle the complicated financial aid system. I was given a few minor scholarships, but not enough to pay for the high tuition at Westfield. I managed to secure enough money for my first year by combining federal and private loans that Grandma Alina co-signed. Housing came next. I found a small apartment 45 minutes from college with 3 roommates I met through a university housing forum, while Lily would reside in the pricey on-campus dorms that our parents would pay for. I applied for any job close to college in the interim. I got a job at a busy coffee shop 2 weeks prior to my move-in date, which was close to my least expensive classes. I also got weekend shifts at a nearby bookstore. There was a clear disparity between our preparedness. Lily was taken shopping by my parents for new clothes, a laptop, and decorations for her dorm room. They assisted her with packing, made arrangements for expert movers, and organized a lavish farewell celebration with friends and family. I used cartons and used suitcases that I found at grocery stores to load my possessions. Mom uncomfortably handed me some of her old twin linens for my new bed the night before I went. It was the only confirmation that I was beginning college as well. My parents brought Lily to campus on move-in day in our family SUV, loaded with her stuff, and I followed in my 10-year-old Honda, which regularly required coolant and made unsettling noises when I broke prior to my 2-hour travel to my new life. Nobody had offered to check it. As my parents and Lily left at the campus entrance, with Lily going to her upscale dorm and me proceeding on my own to my far-off apartment, Mom yelled, "Good luck, Emma. I hope this all works out for you." Her voice's uncertainty simply made me more determined. This wouldn't just happen, I would make it a victory. My new flat was unexpected. Unreliable plumbing, peeling paint, and unfamiliar roommates. I was exhausted after spending that first night by myself on my small mattress, while the sounds of traffic and neighbors fighting could be heard through the walls. The immensity of what I was doing struck me hard, and I began to have my doubts. Is it possible for me to work 30 hours a week and yet take all of my classes? Would my academic performance be destroyed by ongoing financial stress? As hopelessness was about to overtake me, Grandma Eleanor texted me when my phone rang. Recall that diamonds are only formed under extreme strain, my courageous child. You're already radiant. I wiped away my tears and made a detailed timetable that mapped out every hour of my next few weeks while keeping those words in mind. My social life would be almost non-existent and my sleep would be scarce, but my studies and future would not be compromised. During that first week, the financial aid office became my second home. After hearing my experience, Ms. Winters, the assistant director, showed particular interest in my case. She said earnestly, "You're taking on an enormous challenge, but I've seen students in your position succeed before. Just vow to visit me before things get too much to handle." In the upcoming months, that assurance would prove to be a lifeline. My high school counselor, Mrs. Chen, gave me an unexpected call the day before classes started. She had persuaded my high school's business department to give me an extra $1,000 scholarship. She didn't apologize much, but each teacher made a personal contribution. "Emma, we have faith in you." That tiny gesture of generosity from those who genuinely recognized my potential provided me the last boost of confidence I required. My emotions changed as I meticulously entered that valuable sum into my budget spreadsheet. Willpower solidifying into unshakable resolve, I was smacked like a hurricane my freshman year. While other students were getting used to college coursework and relishing their newfound independence, I was juggling a full course load of business studies with 30 hours of work per week. My usual day began at 5 in the morning with a 2-hour study session before I hurried to the coffee shop for my opening shift. I frequently didn't return to my apartment until after midnight since I would go straight to my second job at the bookstore after school. I learned to study throughout my commute, finish papers during lunch breaks, and record lectures to listen to while cleaning the coffee makers because sleep became a luxury I could hardly afford. Every minute was planned, and every resource was used to the fullest extent possible. There is no greater contrast between Lily's life and mine. Through sporadic texts and posts on social media, I got a glimpse of her carefree college life. Events for sororities, information sessions about studying abroad, and weekends spent at home cooking with mothers. In the meantime, I was figuring out whether I could afford groceries and textbooks that month. Despite the demanding timeline, an unforeseen circumstance occurred. My business courses were more than just doable. I was doing quite well. My students struggled with fundamental accounting concepts, but I was using these ideas in real time to my own complex financial circumstances because of years of actual financial planning and professional experience. One day in the second month, I was stopped after class by Professor Bennett, my business ethics lecturer. "Wilson, Ms. Your case study analysis, in particular your viewpoints on resource distribution and family business dynamics, was superb. Your observations demonstrate a high level of maturity. Perhaps for the first time, my difficulties were becoming a strength in my studies. My increasing self-confidence helped to mitigate my fatigue. I was also fortunate to make a surprising buddy during this period that would forever alter my life. After noticing my harsh routine, my roommate Zoe started putting prepared meals in the fridge with my name on them. One night, when I got home feeling especially worn out, she was waiting up. She added plainly, "You can't keep going like this," placing a cup of tea in front of me. "You'll burn out before midterms." Her attitude changed from one of worry to one of outrage on my behalf when I recounted my predicament. "That is incredibly unjust," I said. "Think of me as your college family from now on." My haven during the storm was Zoe. She developed flashcards for my tests, corrected my papers when I was too tired to write clearly, and tenaciously protected my study time from my roommate's disruptions. She insisted on preparing enough food for the two of us after learning that I was skipping meals to save money, and she refused to accept recompense other than assistance with her own homework. The simple explanation she gave was, "My parents taught me that family takes care of each other, and sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." A catastrophe occurred halfway through the sophomore year. Due to seasonal slowdowns, the coffee shop shortened everyone's hours, which resulted in an almost 40% reduction in my revenue. Overnight, my meticulous budget fell apart. I experienced my first significant financial issue when my rent was due and my tuition was about to be due. An increase in panic recalling Ms. Winters from financial aid, I scheduled an urgent meeting. She evaluated my circumstances and provided both unexpected help and helpful advice. She clarified that you are eligible for an emergency award due to your academic performance. Additionally, you have been recommended by Professor Bennett for a position as a research assistant in the business department. It looks better on a resume and pays more than the coffee shop. Another pivotal moment was the research position. I started working closely with Professor Bennett to support her research on small business resilience in recessions. My class schedule was accommodated by the flexible hours, and the intellectual stimulation was a pleasant diversion from making lattes. More significantly, Professor Bennett genuinely cared about my future. Have you given entrepreneurship any thought? One afternoon, as we were analyzing survey results, she asked. You have a really educated viewpoint on how resource constraints spur creativity, a concept that had been growing since high school started to take shape. Making use of my knowledge from my classes in digital media and marketing, I developed a basic web platform that provides local small businesses with virtual assistant services. I worked through the night to create a website and service plans based on the needs I had seen while conducting research with Professor Bennett. I kept my research job more for the mentorship than the money, but at the start of my junior year, my tiny business was making enough to let me leave the bookshop job. Through loans, research stipends, and virtual assistant jobs, I was finally reaching a shaky financial stability. My confidence increased along with my business. I started talking more in business strategy class and sharing my real-world entrepreneurship experiences. Instructors took note and students started coming to me for project guidance. Once feeling invisible, the girl was now a respected voice in the department. In the meantime, Lily and I continued to have a friendly but aloof relationship. Due to work obligations, I almost always turned down her sporadic invitations to sorority functions or campus activities. We rarely talked about our radically different college experiences, sticking to the superficial dialogue that had defined our relationship since we were little. Our parents only contacted me during significant holidays or family emergencies, but they called Lily once a week. We miss you at dinner, but we understand you're busy with your projects. My mother emailed me during one Thanksgiving break when I was unable to afford to go home. The ellipses revealed a lot about their opinions of my decisions. My academic performance was becoming unavoidable despite their persistent rejection. I made the dean's list each semester, won departmental awards, and was asked to speak at a regional business conference. Each accomplishment bolstered my resolve to demonstrate that my path was equally, if not more, legitimate than Lily's. By my junior year, my virtual assistant company had grown into a legitimate digital marketing firm with clients all over the state. I turned my classroom theory into real-world business growth by hiring 2 fellow business students as part-time colleagues. In addition to providing for my living expenses, the firm made enough money to begin paying back some of my lesser loans. Early, I was nominated by Professor Bennett for the coveted Entrepreneurial Excellence Scholarship, which paid for my full tuition for my senior year. She informed me, "You've earned this through extraordinary effort," as I accepted the medal. For the first time since I started college, I felt the crippling weight of financial instability start to lessen. Your tale is a perfect example of the very entrepreneurial spirit upon which this university was founded. With my own focused efforts, the future I had seen in those books at Grandma Leaner's house was coming to pass. I had no idea that my success story was quietly becoming well known in the business department. The seeds that would sprout in the most surprising way at graduation were being sown as I concentrated on living and surviving. When I first arrived on the Westfield campus, I could hardly have predicted the momentum that greeted me in my senior year. My digital marketing company had expanded to include 4 part-time student employees and 15 regular clients. My professional profile outside of the institution was established, and a constant flow of new clients were brought in by the business's appearance in a local entrepreneurship magazine. In the meantime, I was ranked among the best students in the business school due to my academic achievements. In October, Professor Bennett came to me with a surprising opportunity. She slipped a pamphlet across her desk and announced that the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition was now taking entries. $50,000 in company finance and national industry exposure are included in the ultimate prize. I believe your agency model, which focuses on small enterprises in rural areas, has a real chance. I spent weeks hunting my business plan and rehearsing my proposal under her guidance. I advanced to the final round, which is set for April, 1 month before graduation, after 3 rounds of judging that got more and more competitive. Ironically, Lily started having her first significant academic difficulties at the same time that my career was taking off. Her research abilities and work ethic were found to be lacking by the political science department's criteria for senior theses. She was unprepared for this real struggle after years of relying on her innate aptitude and familial support. On a Tuesday night in November, my apartment door was unexpectedly knocked on. When it was opened, a tearful Lily was holding a stack of research papers and her laptop. She quickly admitted, "I'm failing my thesis seminar. My research technique is seriously defective, according to Professor Goldstein, and I have 3 weeks to entirely rebuild everything or risk not graduating." Observing my sister's sincere distress caused me to experience mixed feelings. "Come in," I said, standing aside. "Let's take a look." A part of me, the angry, resentful part, believed that this was karmic payback for years of special treatment, but another part saw this as a chance to get past the hurt of our past. The first of several study sessions began that evening. As I assisted Lily, I realized that my years of independent study and strict time management had equipped me with abilities my sister had never acquired. Professor Bennett's research background was extremely beneficial to me as I helped Lily understand appropriate academic methodology. Something unexpected occurred when we were working together, and we started to seriously discuss how do you do it all for the first time in our lives. Your business has perfect grades research position, but I can barely manage my coursework with nothing else on my plate, Lily said one evening during our vacation. I described the financial strains, my rigorous schedule, and the ongoing calculations needed to keep afloat. Lily listened in increasing fear. I didn't realize she was whispering. Your parents always assured me that you were doing well. But why didn't you ever say anything? I responded. Fine is relative. I've worked 60-hour weeks for 4 years while taking full course loads. I've gone without food, adequate sleep, and any kind of social life, she inquired. I found the query to be stupidly privileged. Would it have changed anything? Would mom and dad suddenly have decided I was worth investing in too? Our relationship took a significant shift after the talk. Lily became my surprising ally as she started to acknowledge the injustice that had molded our lives. She began refusing pricey presents from her parents, stating that she desired to be independent like her sister. Our weekly study sessions had developed into a sincere relationship by January. Lily's thesis was back on track, and she was starting to recognize the value of the perseverance and discipline she had never possessed. In the meantime, the university administration had taken notice of my senior project. I was invited to the business school's head, Dean Rodriguez, in February. Your journey at Westfield has been extraordinary, she said. It's exactly the kind of success story we want to showcase, from paying for your own school to starting a profitable business while still achieving academic brilliance, she stated. Each year, the institution chooses one outstanding student to give a brief speech at graduation. Your story embodies the entrepreneurial spirit and determination we aim to instill in all our graduates, she added, adding that she would like you to think about representing the business school this year. I instantly embraced the chance to publicly declare my accomplishments at graduation in front of my parents and the entire university community, since it felt like the pinnacle of all I had fought so hard to achieve. I was unaware that Dean Rodriguez had more in store than a student speech. Until the ceremony, the specifics would be kept private. The business competition became my main focus as April drew near. I applied all I had learned about resilience, resource optimization, and generating value from constraints in my presentation to the judges. I felt validated when the panel declared my triumph, and it went beyond the cash and recognition since I had turned my biggest obstacles into a competitive edge. Grandma Alina contacted me crying with delight after seeing a picture of me getting the enormous check-in trophy on the main page of the university newspaper about my victory. I always knew you were extraordinary, she said. Everyone else is now aware of it as well. Notably, my parents made no mention of the award or the article. I was no longer surprised by their stillness. Our parents came to town 2 weeks prior to graduation to assist Lily with preparations. They leased a big house for the extended family to celebrate in and organized a lavish party for after the geese ceremony. I was clearly an afterthought when I received a preemptive invitation. When I recalled being left out of the family meal the night before graduation, Mom clarified, "We assumed you'd be busy with work." The dismissal hurt, but not as much as it once would have. Their recognition no longer determined my value. Grandma Alina brought a personalized graduation stole embroidered with lines that had got me through my worst moments as a special gift the day before graduation. Under pressure, diamonds are created. Wear this with pride, she added, her eyes gleaming. You deserve each and every thread. Dean Rodriguez drew me aside with a sly look that night during the graduation rehearsal. She stated that everything was set up for tomorrow. Just be ready for a somewhat drawn-out preamble before your speech. She just winked when I inquired what she meant. There are some shocks that are worth waiting for. The extended family met for supper at a fancy restaurant in the downtown area later that evening. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents were crammed around tables that were pushed together to fit everyone. At the center, my parents entertained everyone with tales of Lily's achievements and plans for after graduation. Uncle Jack, my mother's brother, finally broke the silence. What about Emma? I've heard that she won a significant business competition, but her father waved her away. Yes, Emma has been occupied with her small side endeavors. Emma is really enterprising. The condescending tone made it apparent that, in his opinion, Lily's conventional academic success still took precedence over my accomplishments. Across the table, I noticed my sister's obvious uneasiness. Grandma Eleanor cornered my dad in the restaurant foyer after supper. She was criticizing them for their persistent disregard for my accomplishments, despite the fact that I couldn't hear the conversation because of my father's defensive gestures and tense postures. That evening, when I got back to my flat, I felt oddly at ease. The result of 4 years of unrelenting work would be shown tomorrow. No matter what occurred with my family, I had shown myself how valuable I was, and that was what really counted. As if nature were joining us in celebrating, the morning of graduation came bright and clear. I woke up early since I couldn't sleep due to a mixture of tense anticipation and delight. Not only did I finish my degree today, but my chosen route was also validated. My phone rang and Lily texted me, "Greetings, graduate, I'll see you at the robbery." I'm so happy to be walking beside you today. The little message demonstrated how much our friendship had changed. We had moved from estranged brothers influenced by parental preference to a relationship that resembled true friendship. I carefully put on the clothing I had splurged on for this occasion after having a quick breakfast. A new dress to wear underneath my graduation gown, and fashionable yet sensible shoes that I could wear with assurance Grandma Eleanor's particular stole was tied around my shoulders, and I took a time to feel the full weight of this accomplishment. My parents decided I wasn't worthy of investment 4 years ago. In addition to receiving accolades, I would graduate today with a flourishing business and widespread reputation. Despite the extremely challenging path, the lady who came out stronger than I could have ever dreamed, Zoe, insisted on taking me to the university. "Your carriage is waiting for you, boss lady." She made a joke, but I could see that she was genuinely proud. "You won't be taking any buses today." The campus was bustling with activity as families dressed for Sunday moved between buildings, looking at maps and snapping pictures. Graduates in black robes are gathered like graceful crows at the student gathering area, adjusting headgear and comparing honors cords. Even from a distance, I could see Lily's blonde hair right away. When she noticed that I was embracing me with unexpected emotion, she came running over. She straightened my cap and asked, "Can you believe we made it?" Even though I barely made ends meet while you took the globe by storm, her humility nevertheless caught me off guard. We each made it our own way, and I politely responded. The coordinator of the ceremony started to arrange us alphabetically so that Lily and I would be near each other during the processional. As we discovered our roles, Dean Rodriguez was deliberately approaching, and I saw him draw me gently aside as he remarked, "Ms. Wilson, just to confirm our agreement, the president will make an announcement on special recognitions following the awarding of degrees." She said in a hushed voice, "You'll be called up first for your address. We intend to make a couple more acknowledgments." She gave me a weird smile when I requested for more information. It's better to let it happen organically. To the customary pomp and scene, the graduates filed into the auditorium, so get ready for a turn in the spotlight. I could see the audience through the windows. Thousands of friends and family members occupy the enormous room, chatting excitedly and occasionally shouting hello. I looked around the family area as we marched down the center aisle and saw my folks sitting in first-class seats close to the front. Mom wore an ornate floral dress and hat that shouted significant occasion, while Dad wore his navy suit, which was saved for crucial client meetings. As Lily moved a few paces ahead of me, their gazes followed her with evident pride. Grandma Eleanor sat next to them, looking at me intently while wearing a modest blue dress. She gave a single nod when our eyes locked, expressing her intense pride and affection. The ceremony continued with the anticipated statements regarding education's role and future promise. When the time came for the degrees to be awarded, I half listened while controlling the butterflies in my stomach and mentally practicing my speech. We crossed the stage as departments to get our diplomas and shook hands with university representatives. Grandma Eleanor's unmistakable whistle broke through the courteous applause when my name was called. As we passed one another, Lily gave me the thumbs up before going back to her seat. University President Harlow returned to the podium following the awarding of degrees. Before we wrap up today's ceremony, I'd like to introduce a few special guests. First, Emma Wilson from the School of Business will provide this year's student speech. I saw my parents as I was making my way to the stage. That day, they were staring at me directly for the first time, and their expressions showed surprise. It's obvious that they weren't expecting this distinction for their less talented kid. I took a big breath before stepping up to the podium and starting. I came to Westfield 4 years ago with nothing but resolve and the conviction that education should be earned rather than given. As I stand in front of you today, I have worked 30 hours a week while juggling a full school load, creating a profitable company that hires other students, and graduating with the highest honors. I discussed resiliency, redefining success according to your own standards, and finding power amid adversity. I talked about the hurt of being underestimated and the ability to disprove naysayers without specifically bringing up my parents. Finding that the constraints others set on us don't have to become our own restrictions was the best gift I received from my Westfield education, but it wasn't discovered in textbooks or lectures. We are all capable of going above expectations and defining success according to our own standards. President Harlow returned to the microphone as I finished speaking amid thunderous applause. The dynamics of my family would be permanently altered by what transpired next. I like Ms. Wilson's motivational remarks. I now have the great pleasure of announcing a number of special awards that perfectly capture the quality that Westfield aspires to. he abruptly stopped and looked down at his notes. First, Emma Wilson was unanimously chosen by the School of Business faculty to be this year's valedictorian. She graduated with a flawless 4 GPA and built a company that is currently worth over 6 figures. Throughout the throng, there was a ripple of gratitude. I was shocked to see this public recognition and stood motionless next to the podium. Furthermore, the president went on. This is M. Wilson. The National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition winner this year is bringing unparalleled acknowledgement of our university's business curriculum. The cheers of the audience intensified when I dared to look at my parents and notice that their faces changed from bewilderment to surprise. How many of you might? I was unaware that President Harlow's words could be heard well over the quiet. Noteworthy is that Ms. Wilson was entirely self-financed in order to achieve these remarkable accomplishments. Her schooling taking on several jobs, starting her own business and keeping scholastic success without financial support from family, the disclosure caused a noticeable uproar. Parents in the crowd exchanged looks with one another that ranged from incredulity to appreciation in light of her remarkable journey. I'm happy to say that Ms. Wilson has been offered a job with one of the top corporate strategy firms in the country, Alexander Global Consulting. Additionally, the cover story for Business Innovation magazine's upcoming month will highlight an entrepreneurial journey. On up-and-coming entrepreneurial talent, a standing ovation was given by the crowd. During the roaring acclaim, I saw my parents' faces go white, their attitudes changing from startled by something that was almost terrifying, realizing that everyone now knew they had refused to back the daughter who was honored as the most exceptional graduate from the university. Lily stood among. Grandma was crying and clapping heartily with the grads. Eleanor's arthritic knees prevented her from standing up quickly, so she stayed seated, but her proud grin might have illuminated the entire room. When the cheers subsided, President Harlow gave one more release to commemorate Ms. Wilson's outstanding leadership. The university. The Emma Wilson Resilience Scholarship was created by the board to give students financial aid. Exhibiting extraordinary tenacity in conquering educational challenges, the symbolic triumph was full. In spite of my parents' lack of faith, I had succeeded, and my name would be forever linked with helping those going through similar difficulties. As I went back to my seat, as the applause continued, Lily took hold of my hand and gave it a firm squeeze, saying, "You are incredible," she muttered angrily, "and they were so incredibly wrong about you." The rest of the ceremony went by quickly, and when it was over, the graduates dispersed to look for their family among. As the crowd dispersed, I noticed my parents standing clumsily behind Grandma Eleanor, maintaining their customary assured stances. Replaced with awkward rigidity, a number of instructors and fellow students paused to congratulate me, postponing my arrival at the family get-together. When I eventually arrived, my father tried a cheerful tone that rang. "Well, this was quite a surprise," he murmured, smiling hollowly against the tension. "Emma the casual, you've been avoiding us by not looking into his eyes." Rejection of all my effort, as though I had only been concealing information, instead of. I could have been distraught if I had struggled while they neglected me, but now it hardly registered. "Not at all," I calmly answered. "I've been just who I've been. Always, you simply weren't listening." Before they could answer, in an obvious show of support, Lily moved forward and wrapped her arm around my shoulders, saying, "Everyone's talking about Emma's remarks and achievements," she declared loudly enough for families in the area to hear. "Isn't it incredible how she accomplished all of this without assistance, and I can't even begin to conceive how much more she could have accomplished if she had the same advantages I did." The public recognition of their partiality caused our mother to wince. Uncle Jack and a few other family members nearby saw the exchange with fresh suspicion, saying, "Perhaps we should." Dad proposed that they continue this conversation at home, which was obviously awkward. Under public scrutiny, I responded, "Actually, I have a celebration with this afternoon. My mentors and business team have been my true support system for the last 4 years, and I wouldn't." Grandma Eleanor took my hand in her gnarled one and said, "I'm not going to miss it for anything." I want to meet these amazing folks who understood what your own parents were, she said, accompanying you. Couldn't see the direct remark hovered between us for what might have been the first. I once seen my mother's face light up with sincere regret. We're really proud of you, of course, she said feebly. Thank you, I said with respect. However, I've discovered that success doesn't require outside validation. Today isn't about winning your approval. Grandma Alina and I are celebrating the journey I took without it. Lily quickly decided, I'm coming too, as she turned to go, watching their two daughters move away from their parents to join us. My parents were left standing after they both outgrew the limitations of their expectations in distinct ways. Alone among the joyous families, their meticulously crafted stories about their kids were clearly coming apart. Prior to the indisputable reality, the scene at the graduation feast in the unpleasant family contact earlier could not have been more dissimilar from the business school atrium. Professor Bennett had planned a sophisticated reception for industry and faculty members who had excelled in their careers. Celebratory banners, partners' crystal punch bowls, and exquisite hors d'oeuvres produced a truly joyous ambience. Lily gazed around with wide. This is so different from the political science reception, we said as we walked in. Everyone seems to truly know each other, she said. The business department turned into my home, and I clarified that these folks actually noticed me when our parents couldn't. Zoe came running over and gave me a strong hug. I've heard a lot before she introduced herself to Grandma Alina and Lily. About the two of you, she murmured affectionately. Lily flushed, but the sister who eventually woke her up and the encouraging grandmother took the light-hearted taunting in a good-natured manner. I hope it's better late than never, Dean. With champagne flutes in hand, Rodriguez went up to the woman of the hour, smiled while passing the drinks, and this granny must be the one who had faith in you from the start. I watched Lily as they conversed. I had developed a network of supporters who appreciated me for my real achievements rather than some. Ms. Wilson described a predetermined concept of potential as being in stark contrast to our parents' conditional acceptance. Jennifer Alexander, the creator of Alexander Global, is a prominent woman in a smart business suit who is coming toward our group. Consulting, you gave a remarkable presentation at the business competition. I'm overjoyed that you accepted our offer. I responded, thank you for the opportunity. I'm thrilled to join your team, Jennifer said with a bright grin and a solid handshake. You're exactly what we're looking for with your blend of academic achievement and real-world experience. Not many new graduates have already created a profitable business from the ground up. She stepped aside to welcome other guests. You didn't tell me you'd be working for Alexander Global, Lily said in disbelief. That's one of the biggest renowned consulting organizations in the nation. I grinned humbly as it occurred. Soon after the competition, the pay is substantial, more than my dad makes, I'd say. I suppose, Lily responded reflectively. The festivities went on with faculty and departmental award presentations. I was given the award for exceptional entrepreneurship by Professor Bennett was crying as she described how I went from being a driven freshman to becoming a company owner. Throughout the afternoon, I presented Grandma Alina to everyone who had backed me up with instructors who had guided my students who went on to become entrepreneurs. Colleagues at the institution who had assisted me in overcoming financial difficulties, each greeting featured the individual, recollecting a particular instance in which I impressed them or helped too. Lily whispered after the 10th such introduction, department, I had no idea. These folks really admire you. My phone buzzed halfway through the reception. Mom texted to say, please join us for dinner at the rental house at 6. We want to celebrate. I showed the message to Grandma Alina and Lily, both of our graduates. What do you think? Lily, I believe Grandma snorted, was a little late to play the proud parents. Appeared torn. They're attempting, I suppose, in their own way. We don't have to make a choice. I said, let's enjoy this moment first, as I pocketed my phone. Professor Bennett arrived with a campus photographer as the reception was coming to an end. The business magazine wants A family portrait for the feature piece. Are they here? The inquiry made for an awkward pause. My sister and grandma are here, I said thoughtfully. My parents are in another place just now. Comprehension opened her eyes. The family that matters is what supports you, she added. Please, let's take a picture of you. Grandma Eleanor was holding one arm and grinning proudly as the photographer placed us close to the business school's symbol. My unique stole around each granddaughter, Lily, and me in our graduation attire. Clearly visible as we exited the event, Dean Rodriguez gave me a business card I was required to provide by the admissions dean of Westfield's MBA program. They are eager to talk about offering you a complete scholarship if you choose to continue your studies while working. The opportunities that were still being presented to me were in sharp contrast to my parents' previous expectations, or lack thereof, for my future. Are we invited to the family dinner? As we made our way to Zoe's car, I inquired, and Grandma Eleanor took my hand. You have complete control over the decision, my love. You owe them nothing. However, she said after considering this carefully, it could be beneficial to let them see how you've changed, not for their benefit, but for your own. Lily agreed and said, I'd like to see Uncle Jack question them about why they never brought up your company or accolades prior to today's decision. Headed to the rental home where the extended family was gathered. As we arrived, the conversation became markedly quieter before exploding in warm greetings as family members hurried to congratulate me and Lily. When Mom came out of the kitchen, her normally assured manner had given way to an unusually anxious one. She tried a pleasant grin that fell short of her eyes and added, Emma, you came. We were just about to serve dinner. Dad came over with a phony smile and said, There's my successful daughters, he declared loudly, as though he had been announcing my accomplishments with pride all along. Emma, why didn't you inform us about this large consultancy position? His question's boldness following. I was briefly stunned into silence by years of indifference to my efforts. Uncle Jack interrupted me before I could reply, saying, Probably because you haven't inquired about her intentions once in. At least not in any family gathering I've attended, he stated plainly, for the past 4 years, Robert. The room slipped into an awkward stillness, and Dad's cheeks flushed with a mixture of anger and shame. We've always stood behind both of our daughters, he claimed. Aunt Susan questioned naively and defensively about money because the university. My mother got in when the president made it apparent that Emma was putting herself through school while starting a business. Rapidly, due to our limited resources, we had to make tough decisions, and Emma has always been highly self-sufficient. This independence comes from necessity rather than desire. Grandma Eleanor made a pointed correction. Since her success has now interfered with your plans, let's not change history. There was a noticeable sense of tension in the room as the cousins had awkward conversations. Looks as my parents tried to remain calm in the face of this sudden family scrutiny. Lily. It's astonishing that everyone voiced their opinions, Mom and Dad. I believe it's time to recognize the reality. You gave me preference since I was a toddler, investing all of your resources in me and nothing in Emma. Everyone saw that Mom's eyes today, and you were mistaken about her potential. Shedding tears, whether out of sincere regret or shame at being named. It was challenging to ascertain that we never intended to come out so publicly, she said. I quietly interrupted, but impact counts more than intended. Your decisions shaped my reality, no matter what you intended to do. Dad, who isn't used to having his regaining control of the situation, was attempted by the questioned authority. This is scarcely the moment for family laundry. Yes, Aunt Susan made it clear that we're here to celebrate honoring Emma's incredible accomplishments, which she achieved completely without your help. Seem for a family get-together, wouldn't you agree? The family meal went well with tense discussion, my family members viewing me through fresh perspectives, pointed inquiries regarding my plans for my business and career. With every success, I explained how my parents' uneasiness intensified as it became more apparent how big of a problem they had been dismissing. When dessert was served, there was a noticeable change in the dynamics of the family. my parents had always been the center of authority during family get-togethers. Their assessment was suddenly called into question. The daughter they had considered less deserving had undermined their credibility by demonstrating her superiority by any objective criteria. Completely as the evening came to an end, family members left with heartfelt congrats and, in a number of circumstances, business cards and offers of professional relationships, the acknowledgement of the extended family, and, even though it was delayed, the support felt very affirming when only immediate relatives. Emma, your mother, and I have been trying to reach a consensus with Dad. We're talking about it and would like to assist you with the security deposit for a flat close to your new employment as a. The graduation gift is so meager in comparison to the 4 years of tuition that Lily would have received. Formerly meant the world to me, but now its lack of sufficiency felt almost obscene. Thank you, but it won't be necessary, I said calmly. My beginning salary for every year, Alexander Global will earn $90,000 plus performance bonuses. Housing is quite safe. The number is far higher than my father's. His countenance fluctuated between shock and shock as the current earned hit him like a physical punch. Shock followed by a reluctant admission that the daughter he had fired had outperformed him. Accomplishments, well, he eventually remarked, straining to keep his cool. You've unquestionably demonstrated your abilities. Yes, I replied, but I haven't needed to demonstrate anything to anyone other than myself as we got ready to part ways with Lily. Took me aside. I'll be spending a few days with Grandma Alina before relocating to. Would you like to come along for a little family getaway at my new apartment? Relatives who truly matter. The idea is so straightforward, but so profound in its restructuring of familial ties made me cry uncontrollably. I whispered love as we left, leaving I felt generations of weight lifted off my shoulders as my parents stood unsurely in the entryway of their leased showpiece home. Shoulders in light of my own, their acceptance, which I had so desperately craved for the majority of my life, had become inconsequential. Confirmed the value of the family I was selecting as my mentors, Grandma Eleanor, Lily, Zoe. The people who had always recognized my worth were my supporters. Signified far more than the tardy recognition of those who had not noticed till it became unavoidable. The weeks after graduation brought a tornado of modifications. I used some of my competition to move into a cozy apartment close to the Alexander Global offices. Profits for furniture and the security deposit my tiny firm kept running. Currently properly hired with fair compensation and allowing flexible schedules, all under the supervision of my student team. Their studies, the anticipated magazine story was released in the interim, along with them. Grandma Eleanor, Lily, and I at graduation in a photo. The article explained how, from a self-funded freshman to an award-winning business owner and consultant, I have positioned my narrative as. I provided copies to the professor as an illustration of perseverance in the face of adversity. Bennett Dean Rodriguez, as well as all those who have helped me during the how my connection with my parents became ambiguous. They asked for a Sunday lunch meeting at a neutral restaurant 2 weeks after graduation. Although the conversation was unpleasant, it was their first sincere attempt to get back together. We've given our decisions a lot of thought, Mom started by carefully considering. Dad, who was less at ease having emotional chats, added sternly to the presumptions that led them. We might have miscalculated your abilities. The understatement was nearly humorous. Considering recent occurrences, yet I realized that recognition was insufficient. Signified a major shift for them, and I agreed with you. Mom went on, we'd like to try to mend our connection if you're. Willingly, I gave careful thought to their plea. The wounded child in me wished to flatly refuse them in order to cause the same kind of humiliation I had endured for years, but the woman I had realized that carrying on with that pattern will just worsen the harm, thus I'm willing to create a fresh connection, I finally said, but it would have to be based solely on who I. Actually, I'm not who you hoped or imagined me to be. That seems reasonable, Dad. acknowledged that his usual confidence was noticeably diminished and that it would be necessary to accept what had transpired. Wasn't merely miscommunication or a bad event, it was partiality that led to actual harm. They were obviously uneasy with this condition, but after exchanging, they nodded and exchanged looks. We did favor Lily, Mom said. Quietly, we believed she was a safer investment because she met our success expectations, but we were mistaken. And our error caused you much pain. I really apologize, Emma, the real. Despite its flaws, accountability was more than I had anticipated. It provided access to potential reconciliation, even though the road ahead would not be simple or quick. I started working at Alexander Global in the summer while keeping in touch. Lily and Grandma Aliner had managed to land an entry-level job with a nonprofit foundation that prioritizes educational justice, a decision that appears to have been impacted by her new. Being conscious of status and opportunity disparities, I'm constantly considering how different. At one of our weekly sister dinners, she revealed our trajectories and how many other kids encounter the same challenges as you did, but without your extraordinary perseverance, she would not be able to grow. More than any apologies, social consciousness made me happy because my sister was growing up and becoming more than just a golden child. Identity our parents had created for her in order to foster real empathy and a sense of purpose. By fall, I had found a steady pace with my consulting business, while also managing the digital marketing firm, my first. Senior partners praised the performance review, and there was an unexpected bonus and financial security that eluded them. During a weekend visit to Grandma, the condition I had been after for years suddenly became mine. As we sat on her veranda admiring the sunset at Aliner's lake house, she gave me a little wooden box. I've been reserving this until the appropriate time, she clarified. There was a fragile silver. When I graduated from school, my grandma gave me this bracelet, saying it served as a reminder that I've held it all. A woman's value originates internally, not from the opinions of others. For a granddaughter who would genuinely comprehend its meaning after all these years, she secured it around my wrist. Further stated, Emma, your trip has been more difficult than it should have been, but the woman. Her comments, you've become extraordinary through that struggle in ways that an easier path might never have revealed. Crystallized an emotion I had been having but found difficult to express, while the injustice I encountered wasn't warranted. The qualities I had acquired as a result of that hardship had become essential to who I was and achievement. On my graduation anniversary, which was 1 year ago, I utilized some of my savings and company earnings to create Westfield's first-generation success scholarship university. In contrast to conventional scholarships that only considered academic performance, this fund specifically supported students exhibiting exceptional tenacity in conquering financial or familial challenges. The committee should take into account the students' accomplishments as well as their current location. When completing the endowment information, I gave instructions on how to get there. The first recipient, a young woman who was taking care of her younger brothers and studying accounting while working 2 jobs, reminded forcefully of myself, but the difference was that she would now have the support that I had gradually been lacking from my parents. Attending the scholarship announcement ceremony and gaining limited trust via persistent work, they listened. I saw that in my speech on building opportunity ladders for others to climb. Something fresh in their faces, not merely remorse for previous transgressions, but sincere pride untarnished by comparison or situation. You made something valuable. Dad recognized it later, and the closest he had learned to show sincere appreciation. Mom stated more bluntly, you've evolved into someone who uses her own suffering to find meaning, which is uncommon and priceless. These minor acknowledgments mattered, and probably the most significant lesson I had learned along the way was that external approval, even from parents, was ultimately subordinated to my inner belief. When they finally admitted it, my value remained unchanged. Lily and I kept getting stronger because perception had just caught up to the reality that had existed all along, separating our true sisterhood from our parents' comparison framework. Created, she posed the subject that had obviously been on her mind for a while during a Saturday hiking excursion. Do you believe you'll ever forgive them completely? I gave this some serious thought as we arrived at a picturesque vista. Forgiveness isn't a. I finally said, it's a continuous process of releasing the hope that things might have turned out differently in the past. I doubt I'll ever get over being told I wasn't worth. To be honest, I kept investing, but I'm trying to avoid letting that experience define my. Lily nodded. That's the forgiveness I'm capable of right now. Relationship with them moving forward. Carefully, for what it's worth, their worst loss over the years was not knowing who you truly were. As I gazing out over the expansive terrain beneath us, I contemplated the path that had led me here from the ruined. The successful professional giving the adolescent the impression that she deserved it but you didn't. Others, the change occurred not only in my situation, but also in my basic self-worth realization. My true triumph wasn't disproving my parents. Even if that satisfaction was indisputable, the greater victory was realizing that their evaluation had never truly characterized me. I was always capable, valuable, and deserving of investment. Failed to recognize that it represented their limitations rather than mine. Maybe that's the most potent insight for everyone who has been disregarded or undervalued. Your worth exists regardless of whether or not other people can see it. Views that restrict you refer to other people's lack of imagination rather than your innate ability ultimately turned into my greatest strength. Benefit, it compelled me to cultivate tenacity, independence, and resolve that benefited me for a long time. The very traits my parents neglected to foster had healed the initial hurt. Served as the cornerstone of a success they couldn't have predicted, not because I wasn't competent, but rather because of their was too narrow to capture my potential. Have you ever been undervalued by someone whose views seemed to describe your value? How did you muster the courage to disprove them, or more crucially, to demonstrate your worth to yourself? Leave a comment below with your story, and remember to like and subscribe if this journey of overcoming familial expectations struck a chord with you. Keep in mind that occasionally people who believe the thing that might inspire you the most is not their acceptance, but rather find out how far you can really soar beyond their narrow vision. Thank you. I appreciate you traveling with me, and I hope my tale encourages you to value yourself no matter what. Who doesn't say?